Is right about 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll take a second. I'm Darren Erickson. I'm the principal here at Pleasant Valley High School. This is my third year as the principal. Before that, I was associate principal for 8 years, so starting in 2011. And then prior to that, I taught English in the building for 6 years as well. So I've been with Pleasant Valley, minus a short little hiatus in the middle when I started my administrative career since 2001. We have some people here tonight to help me out a little bit. We have two of our high school counselors, Miss Ellie Thomas and Mr. Scott Rice. So when we get closer to the end, and I know there'll be some questions, they're the ones who can probably answer quite a few of them, as they work with the counseling staff with a lot of the registration and course selection as well. My predecessor, the high school principal here for a number of years, he's now our director of education, secondary of education, Mike Zimmer. He's here as well and has a deep well of knowledge from going through this several times. So I mentioned going through this several times because just last week we had our incoming senior night. And I asked them, because I guess I'll go back a little bit to coming into this district, and I had a kindergarten and a third grader at the time, and watching Mr. Zimmer do his presentation, and every year at the freshman meeting, he turns and he says, "This is going to be the fastest 4 years of your life. You just wait, it goes by fast." And I remember thinking, oh, interesting. And then, you hear the same presentation 4, 5, and 6 years. Then I remember bringing my freshman into this meeting and with my wife, and we're sitting there, and this is going to be the fastest 4 years of your life, and we're like, whatever. And then I remember presenting to my wife and son at the senior meeting, and I wanted to say, this was the fastest 4 years of my life. So It really is. It is a great time. It is an exciting time. There are so many wonderful opportunities here. A lot of this, we're going to go over some information. It'll be recorded. Beth Marsoon from our district office, she's recording it. It'll be posted online. Some of the information we'll cover quickly, and a lot of it's just kind of general, because if you've had a high school student before, you're probably like, okay, yeah, maybe what's changed or anything. But if you haven't, it's a little overwhelming. I get that. Coming into a school where right now we have 1,650 students. Next year we may be closer to 1,700. So it's growing. There are a lot of changes. Things are always going on. But trust me, take some time, enjoy the journey as well, because it does go quickly. So, quote from a great philosopher, as Mr. Zimmer likes to say, high school is the time where everything counts. Doors opportunity will be open or closed depending on your student's effort in the classroom for the next 48 months to earn 23 credits. So what starts to change in high school as opposed to going through the elementary and the junior high is every class that you take will earn credit. And essentially, we work on semesters, not quarters. So passing a semester's class is worth 0.5 credits. Or if it's a full year class, the entire year passing both semesters is 1 credit. So in order to graduate, you need 23 credits. Here, we'll go over a few things. So again, they're earned at semester. So if you pass one semester and fail another, it's 0.5. If you pass both, it's a full credit. So a credit is earned after completing a semester course. If it meets every day, it's 0.5 credits. Some of our courses, like for example, health, meets every other day freshman year. So that is a 0.25 credits per semester, or 0.5 for the year. And PE, 4 years of PE will equal 1 credit. Then you'll see every now and then a word prerequisite. And what that is, some of our courses, in order to take a higher level course, you have to have some of the basic courses that establish there, or a prerequisite. Like for example, to take like Ceramics 2, Ceramics 1 would be a prerequisite for it. So different level courses across the board, just depending on what they are, may have a prerequisite. Example, you have to have Algebra 1 before Geometry, Food Prep before Spartan Bakery. It's just kind of the progression. So of those 23 credits, what do you have to take? Because we always say, in addition to having 23 credits, they have to fall in the right bin. So what are those bins? The big one, as far as having to have 8 semesters or 4 years of, you have to have 4 years of English per our graduation requirements. You have to have 3 years of math, science, or social studies. But I'm going to pause a minute on the science piece, because this is a state of Iowa regulation. Science has what are called the Next Generation Science Standards, or NGSS, and there are 3 different strands of NGSS. You have to have 3 science credits, but you have to have 1 in each of the strands. And so, and I think we touch on it a little bit here, if you start at a certain science class, if you start in an honors class, it may be 4 years of science in order to meet all 3 strands of requirements of the standards. So it's 3 credits, but it could be 4 classes in order to meet all 3 strands of the NGSS. You have to have 4 years of wellness for a credit, health, which the majority of our students take freshman year for the half credit. CTE, which is career and technical education, you have to have 0.5 credits in a CTE course, and the counselors will walk you through all the different options that you have for that. You can take either a second CTE course or an expressive arts course. You have to have 0.5 credits there. Service learning, which will equal a full credit over the 4 years of high school. And service learning is broken up into 2 chunks. There's the 9th, 10th service learning, and there's the 11th, 12th service learning. And so where it really gets to be, where you'll really notice like a grade, and it's a pass-fail option, but where the timelines are based upon the end of your sophomore year and the end of your senior year. We'll talk a little bit more in depth there. I don't recommend, it's kind of like as a former English major, when I would get a paper and I had a month to do, and I would try to do it all in that last night or two, the product usually wasn't as good and was a lot more stressful than if I spent a little time over the course of the full 30 days. Service learning works much the same way. We have a new course here that actually, we used to do more of these meetings because during the school day where we would bring our students in and go over a lot of this information. But we're getting that information now through, it's called the College Career Seminar. And it's 1 quarter each year that your student will be in, and the counselors rotate teaching it, going over a lot of this. In addition to information like this, it's information on helping them find different interests that they may have in job place opportunities or majors that they might want to look at, what schools offer those, how to apply for scholarships and get letters of recommendation, all of those things. It's a progression through the 4 years to help better prepare kids for when they walk out our doors. And then that leaves 6 credits in electives for a total of 23. Many, I don't know if most, but many of our students graduate with a lot more than 23 credits because they choose more electives. You're not limited, like I would say a vast majority of our kids take 4 years of math. And we recommend that for a variety of reasons. Knowing that a lot of times in math, in college, you have to have even a basic math class. It's hard to step away from math for 18 months after your junior year and get right back into it. We recommend keeping up those skills in a lot of different areas. So, touching on the College Career Seminar, it's, again, grades 9 through 12. It goes over meaningful academic post-secondary planning, culminating in the creation of individual career academic plans. That is required by the Department of Ed. So, we're using this course to actually create that requirement for kids. And then it's the college career readiness standards, academic planning and support, socio-emotional and behavioral health standards, aligned with the ASCA mindsets and behaviors, and those are the standards that counselors work through. You'll find, and I don't think they have access to the program, when do they get access to Zello? Okay, so quick show of hands, have you heard of or used Zello? Okay, many of you, that's where a lot of this information and resource will go through that your students will have. All right, we get into the everything counts. And why we talk about that is from once you start in the high school, you are creating a high school transcript. And it's easy to, that freshman year transition can be very difficult. It's easy to fall into, I'm in a bigger school, I have a little more freedom, I'm getting older, some of the students will start to drive, just all of those things that come naturally. And it's easy to forget one semester of, I just didn't do very well, and I don't know, I didn't study, I didn't do this, and that grade goes on a transcript. That is part of the transcript that's added in for a grade point average. So we try to emphasize everything counts. Can you retake classes? Yes, but the grades stay on the transcript. So we try to emphasize that to the kids. You are creating your transcript upon which your post-secondary options are going to be based in part, not in totality, but in part on that transcript. It's also a time for exploration. And what that means is, when I was 20, I didn't know what I wanted to do, much less when I was 14. I know some people, I've heard people who are like, I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I was 7 years old, and by gosh, I'm going to do it. I think the majority of people are, I thought I was going to be a baseball player or an astronaut when I was that age, so I had no idea. So take some classes based on your interest. Find some things that you might want to do. And as a person with a master's degree in English and in administration, my shop classes in school, I use those every bit as much as I use my English classes right now. And I look at how much, just those basic life skills. Don't be afraid to, your academics are important, but don't be afraid to get some life skills, to get some of those habits. And you might find something, I'll use my son, a sophomore, who has found he loves autos, and he's looking into becoming an auto mechanic. That was just where he found, he's gravitated towards it. He never would have known if he didn't try. Going back to that semester, passing is defined as a D or higher. I know many people will say, not in my house, but on our transcripts, a D or higher is credit, so that counts. And again, we talked about that. You're creating your high school transcript. I also like to point out to them is you have 8 semesters that go on your transcript, but it's typically junior or senior year, early in your senior year when you're sending in for scholarships or college applications and everything, and they take their transcript as is. So in reality, the number that you're going to be applying for those opportunities is often based on 6 or 7 semesters as well, so it's even a little bit less. And as I'd like to say, an A is awesome, 1A and 1F, I could jump to a C, so it might not be exactly what you want. The GPA is determined at the end of every semester, and we do have both weighted and unweighted grades here. Weighted grades at the school are given for honors and advanced placement classes. A question we get a lot of time because we have a lot of dual certified or college courses in our school. Do we give weighted credit for the college courses? And the answer is no, we don't. And the reason why is we give the courses in which, we give the honors credit to the courses in which we have control of the curriculum and the rigor. So we don't necessarily accept the outside. There's always, if you're coming from another school or moving in and we saw an honors course on a transcript from another school coming in, we give the honors credit there. But we don't have control over the curriculum. You may be taking a college course in the walls of Pleasant Valley High School, but it is a Scott Community College course, so we really don't have control of the curriculum of that course, if that makes sense. So we work in conjunction, it's valid curriculum, but we don't give it any weighted credit because it's based upon their requirements. Going into that interest, enroll in courses that help meet your students' goals and academic strengths. Select classes, not teachers. We were talking earlier about growth and changes, and when I started teaching here, there were 9 English teachers, we're at 13 right now. And I've had in the past where kids where I signed up for this class because Mr. Johnson's great. Mr. Johnson doesn't teach it anymore, things have changed, we have a new teacher or something. So you're not going to know who's teaching what, so select courses, not teachers. Don't enroll in courses. Here's the bad thing. I'm taking this class because my friend is. Well, is it something you want to take? It's not all bad, as long as you have an interest or a passion in it. Don't just duplicate your friend's schedule, make your schedule and hope it coincides in your friend's. And another reason is multiple sections of the class. You could have the identical schedule and never have one class with your friend. There's just multiple sections of all of these courses. Don't select teachers for the reason that I just said, and don't take a course just because it has honors credit. They're given honors credit often because they have more rigor, there's more work, there's more study, all of those things. So take what is appropriate to you. If you want an honors course, that's great, but be prepared to put in that extra time and work that it's going to take to be as successful as you'd want. A C in an honors course, I'd rather get an A in a college track, even a B in a college track. They work out the same, and there's much less headache and heartache during that time. So parents, how can you help once your child gets into high school? When you get into college, I don't have the answer to that, I have one there. Here's just a few recommendations of things that I have my parent hat on right now, not my principal one. Follow grades weekly, not daily, for a variety of reasons. Because if your student turns in something, it might not get entered that day or something, teachers might be doing it over the weekend or something, and you'll see those fluctuations. And he missed a quiz and had to come back and gets there 2 days later, 8th hour, but that quiz was marked a 0. Well, yeah, because he missed it and he wasn't there. So he's got a 0? No, he just has to make up the quiz. It's a stressor when you're checking that thing every single day. Check it weekly. We ask teachers to post their grades and update their grades on Mondays. So know that there's going to be a little fluctuation. And as talking to my wife and me, sometimes it's always like, I gotta go. No, I don't have to go ask. Give it a little time. Start with, hey, did you turn that in? and have that conversation. And then if you get questions, just ask. Look at every week, you will receive an email, and it's called the Missing Assignments email. And what it is we've set up to have an email pulled where it'll go through your student's portal, and anything that a teacher marks with the M or missing, you'll get an email, and it might be a list, and hopefully you don't get many of those emails. But just received one the other day, missing biology worksheet or something, got home, hey, did you turn in that biology worksheet? Oh, yeah, why don't you look in your bag? Hadn't turned in the missing biology worksheet. That email is very helpful. So take a look at that email, and what I've found, what I will do is when you get a few things on it, I try to look for repeat offenders. If I got an email and that same assignment's on there the next week, now is when the cell phone stays on the counter, not in the room, and now is when the homework is, so just change the approach there. I recommend finding, whether it's a weekend, a weeknight, or something, sit down with your kid. Don't try to do it every night. Don't overwhelm them, don't overstress them about school, but sit down, especially early in a semester, and say, hey, just open up your email, what's there? You will find how many students have never opened their school email. You will find a lot is the answer to that question. And they will have an email from a teacher that says, hey, make sure you turn this in, you can get this assignment here. Because we're all guilty of it occasionally, not checking those emails. You'll find notifications that they've received. So make sure that they're checking that periodically. Get on and get to know their Google Classrooms. Do you have the link to your teacher's Google Classroom? All the resources are there, right? What's the syllabus on there? Oh, let's go to the Google Classroom. And you'll find some kids don't do that. So just having them kind of walk you through, pick a class. Hey, math, how's it going? Let's see, can I see that Google Classroom? That's a great way to start a conversation with your child and have them take the onus and the lead of the responsibility, making your life a little less stressful. If you have a concern, you and your student having an issue, start with the teacher. They're the ones who have the answers. And I'll know sometimes I'll get a call about something that happened. I don't know anything about the situation, so what do? I go and talk to the teacher. I think it's more effective when, and it's not always the answer. Sometimes the issues have to, they do amp up or take a different approach. But I've found starting those lines of communications with teachers, we encourage staff as well. If there are issues, start with the parent. Don't start with me. Start with a conversation with a kid and a conversation with the parent. I've always said the best thing, and I'm guessing many of you would appreciate, getting a call that says, hey, I've got a little problem. Can I get some help? Here's what it is. And you can work together. I've always said sometimes we've had some meetings that everybody's angry, and I want to stop and say, everybody in this room is on the same team. We all have the same goals. We all want the same outcomes, so let's problem solve here. So do your best. Let's keep little problems little, and if we get to the big problems, we'll solve those too. But communication is also often that first line. And then if a grade's not, again, your student, if whatever the expectation for those grades are, D's should be C's, C's should be B's, we have 8th period resource. So freshman year, I know all the freshmen or incoming freshmen, you're gonna boo me, but freshman year, every freshman is assigned to 8th period resource. And that's from 2:45 to 3:30 at the end of the day. They're in groups of about maybe 7 per classroom. That's a time where it's not an academic-based class. It's a time for you to work on homework, to go over your things for the day, to catch up any missing work. But it's also a time to, if you're struggling in a class, can I go talk to my science teacher? It's also a time, I was sick yesterday, I have a makeup test, can I go do it now? Instead of trying to stay after school or before school, it's kind of a catch-all where it's a resource for students and it's a time to get help with your teacher. So if a student's not doing very well in a class, often the line of communication is, have you talked to the teacher? Have you been there 8th hour? And maybe following up with the teacher. Can Johnny come in 8th hour and get a little help? He's struggling a little bit. So we'll work with you that way. So course requests. What courses do we take? And do you know when are the counselors at the junior high going to start doing the meetings? Have you gotten your registration forms for next year, students? Thursday, okay. So between Thursday and next week, you'll get a form and it'll have all the freshman classes. Really, for the most part, the form will, you're gonna take your 4 cores and PE. You're gonna have an English, science, math, social studies, and wellness. Really what it comes down to are the electives that you wanna select for next year. So I know we already talked, we meet with counselors and teachers. Sometimes they're like, do I take honors English, which level? A lot of times the counselors and the teachers are already gonna have a recommendation. The recommendations are based on student performance. The teachers provide input on how they perform, the work ethic, or if it's has a little issue or maybe doesn't do a lot of work, might recommend a different placement. So those recommendations are based on data and observations of people who've been doing it for a long time. If you have a question about that, you can obviously contact your counselor with requests that way. But select the courses that are going to challenge and meet the academic needs. Look at your test scores, and a lot of times those scores you'll see a number that might not mean anything to you. A good place to look at is a percentile of like, where is the performance? You're performing at the 50th percentile, at the 75th, at the 90th in relation to other students. And then again, teacher recommendations. We take all of those into consideration. Some of our top courses have a more concrete number that's based on. Others, it gives us more of a guideline, but again, we try to take all of those things into consideration as we try to place students at the appropriate level. I would also say, look at with the end goal in mind. And I know it's early to say, what do you want to do when you graduate? But I've always, like I looked at with my son who's considering autos, what's the last level of math that you want to take? I don't need to fast forward you if your junior or senior year, you're going to be taking levels of math that don't really fit what your goals and opportunities are. So kind of have a little bit of the end in mind. So here are a couple of sample schedules. I said you'll basically have your 4 cores, PE, and 2 electives, an 8th period resource. So if you look at sample schedule 1, you'll see this is like our college track. I would say roughly 70% of our kids take English 9, Earth Science, MODIS or Modern US History, and then Algebra 1. And then the 2 electives on here were, one of them is an Intro to Business one semester and a food prep next semester, and band. That could be choir, that could be orchestra, that could be, autos, it could be all kinds of intro to engineering. There's a million different electives to choose from with an 8th period resource. The schedule on the right, sample schedule 2, is a little bit more rigorous, and it has a 3rd course on it. You'll see there's no 8th period resource. If there's no 8th period resource, we typically, you'll have 8th period health and PE. But if you look at that, English 9, honors geometry, honors biology, French 1, PV singers, AP human geography, freshman band. It's a schedule that can be done. It is a very rigorous and time-consuming schedule. So I'm not talking you into it. I'm not talking you out of it. I would say buyer beware, because of those high-level classes and not having that 8th period resource, especially when there might be interests outside of school. You may be an athlete playing sports, you might have a part-time job. All of those things weigh in, and all of our classes, our college track courses, have a lot of work to them, and you get into the honors and just the expectations for homework and studying and preparation. That's a lot. So really think about that. And slight tangent here, but we've seen just over the past few years with COVID and everything that's kind of changed right now, just an uptick in social-emotional issues with kids and stress and all of that going on. And I think it's important that we remember sometimes a big part of that teen or high school experience is being a kid. And it's you know what, I'm gonna go with my friends tonight, we're gonna go to McDonald's. You know what, that's not a bad thing either. So really choose those schedules wisely. When requesting classes, I talked a little bit about this earlier, select classes, not teachers. Pay attention to those teacher recommendations. You may disagree, it's fine, have a conversation, but again, those recommendations aren't made just arbitrarily. We're basing it on observations and experience, and the junior high teachers are providing a lot of that input as well. Choose appropriate courses, and then the course requests, they're due next Friday, so you'll be getting those forms. You'll have a week, and if you have questions, talk to your junior high counselor for some of those. And then here's this magic date, April 1st. April 1st is a very big day because right now, every course that we offer in this school is open. Everything is available. I don't know how many sections we're going to have of courses right now because it depends on how many students register for it. And just using like easy math, let's say foods class. If 100 students sign up for foods at 20 students apiece, I know I need 5 sections of foods. If 80 sign up, I know I need 4. 120 sign up, we'll need 6. That's how we make our schedule. So where that April 1st date comes into is because for next year, we have to make a schedule, we have to make the physical schedule, and we have to hire the teaching staff in support of it. So what can happen is, I'll go back to my foods example, if I had 95 kids sign up for foods, I still need 5 sections, and now I have 5 open seats in foods. So, but I only have 5 open seats. If 10 kids come and say, I want to take foods now, after April, right now, I can do it because, I'll make a 6th section. After April 1st, I can't because we've locked that in. We've hired our staff and we've made all of those plans. So we literally don't have seats for it. And I've heard a lot of people be, oh, you've got a seat. Sometimes we do, and we work as much as we can and do shuffling and everything, but literally sometimes we don't. And also what can happen is because we've made a physical schedule, we might say we have 1 seat, but it's in 3rd hour, and the class that you're taking 3rd hour is the only section of that class. So you have to choose between those 2. And we don't want to put students in that situation. So choosing as accurate as you can make changes through March. If you change your mind, I don't want that, I want that, that's okay. But that April 1st date is when this gets to that. We just lose so much of our flexibility. This process, it's important to know, the students are making all of these. We want you to sit down and have conversations with them, but ultimately the students, teachers, the counselors are kind of going through this. Take the students' lead on it. Let them make these decisions. Again, let them explore. Getting involved. Study after study shows that kids that are involved in school are more successful, and a lot of times you'll hear, oh, extracurriculars pull away time. Actually, studies show students involved in extracurriculars typically perform better academically than students not involved. It just gets you connected to the school. So we have 21 sanctioned sports, and then we have numerous clubs. They're not sanctioned by the state, but we have garden club, trap shooting, Girls Learn International. We have a Dungeons and Dragons gaming course. We can always create new clubs and organizations, so get involved. We have a competitive chess team that is going to be starting up next week. So, yes, we have a club right now where we have a group of students who are currently building an airplane. It's an aviation club, and we're working at, where is it, DeWitt? Or in Eldridge, at the airport out there. At the end of it, we are building a plane. So that is taking place right now. So there's something for everyone. We will be having, it'll be in the end of March, beginning of April, our athletic director, Deanne Kramer, will be hosting a junior high to high school, kind of an athletic transition night, basically going over like rules, regulations, and once you get into school and eligibility criteria. The 3 things, if you're gonna start, especially if you play a fall sport, so volleyball, football, cross country, I'm trying to remember all 6 of them right now. Girls swim, there are 6 fall sports. Get these over the summer to start. The 3 things that you need, you have to have a physical completed prior to the first day of activities, And if you look at if you had a physical last year, they're usually good for 13 months from when you got it. So if you got a physical last August something, it might get you into the start of the school year, but take a look, but get those done. And then on the website or in the activities office, the concussion form and the parent waiver. So have those ready to go, particularly if you play a fall sport. And then eligibility. It's high school, again, it's different. If you fail a course for a semester, we follow the state rules, the state guidelines. I don't want to get into the details, but roughly, if you fail any course, you would be ineligible for participation for 30 days. That's a real broad statement. There's more details that Ms. Kramer can talk about. Service learning, a lot of people ask about service learning. I'm going to focus on the 9-10. So over the course from when you finish your 8th grade year, you can start service learning. So essentially, June 3rd, you could start accruing your service learning hours if you would like. And you have until the end of your sophomore year to do 30 hours of community service. It's a program, we're trying to take it to a different level as opposed to just going out and doing something, into helping students try to find a passion of ways to get involved in their community. A way to give back that they're going to live and work in, all the different facets. So it is a graduation requirement. It's a blend of community service and learning activities. Youth participation in the programs, again, it helps out the community, it also helps out the kid. There are a lot of different opportunities. It also is a good way to connect to that career exploration piece. So our service learning coordinator is Christina Myatt. So you'll get emails from Christina Myatt. Those are ones to read and see what's going on. Not only are there outside opportunities, but we also offer opportunities within the building. During our early outs, Ms. Myatt organizes events that students could stay and do for a few hours. If a student only participated in those afternoon activities for 2 years, the student would be able to get enough service learning to meet the requirement without ever stepping foot out of the school. She also offers some correspondence opportunities that you can do at home or virtually. We've had students work on making shawls or tie blankets and things outside of the school. So you can also do some of that service learning at home as well. And they can choose, obviously you can read through this. There is a Google Classroom that she updates the progress so you can see if there are, how many hours you have and just where the progress is. The magic number for when it starts to impact will be at midterm of the sophomore school year. You should have at least 15 completed by then. So you've got a long time, and then 30 hours over the course of the full 2 years. And then obviously she sends out emails weekly with different opportunities. There's a website, you can always contact her. And I recommend kids during the first day, we'll have an orientation. Ms. Myatt will be part of it and she'll give you more information. But just touching base and saying, hey, I'm interested in this. Perfect, we've got opportunities, we'll get you going. The school nurse, almost done. School nurse, the state requirement requires a dental screening for all incoming 9th graders. So dental screening is completed during the year that you're freshmen. So you can bring these to the high school, not the junior high. If your student has allergies, takes medications at school, or any health concerns, complete the medical portion of the online registration, get those forms in. We like to know, and even if our nurse likes to know if there's a medication issue, because sometimes you may take a medicine at home, but if a student is sick or something's going on and it's a side effect of medication, it helps for the nurse to know what she's dealing with. Jenna Dexter's our nurse here in the building. And all doctor's notes, if you break an ankle and you can't participate in PE, bring that doctor's note to the nurse and she will communicate with the PE teachers. Don't bring them to the PE teachers or anyone else. The nurse will take care of that. Then just a few quick frequently asked questions. IEP 504 meetings, some of those will take place between now and the end of the school year at the junior high. Others will take place in early August or possibly even into September as the paperwork comes from the junior high to the high school. So there may be new case managers or anything. So if you don't have it at the end of the year, look for communication to come out during that time. We'll release times before the school starts. We like to open up the school a few days. Some of them are, this year we did a couple of nights and even a couple of daytimes where kids could come in after their schedules come out and walk their schedule. They want to know where their locker is. They want to know their way around. We'll have a few times to do that. I would wait till the schedules come out. If there's a specific circumstance, you can always contact us. We can set it up just to kind of get to know your way around. Our first day of school, every year, we have what we call Freshman Transition Day. So we have an early out, and at the halfway point, we kick out all the 10th through 12th graders, and it's just the freshmen. And that's where you're with your 8th period resource teacher. We have a scavenger hunt where you have to find different resources around the building. We have time for you to spend with your 8th period resource teacher to get to know this person and go over some things. We do a class meeting where the administration, Mr. Jones, Mr. Padgett, Mr. Hum, and myself, Ms. Kramer as well, we go over and we just give kind of a welcome and over the school. So students will find out a lot of information on that day as well. You're going to get to the beginning of school and be like, what's going on? We'll open up the building for you before school starts and kind of get to know your way around and do our best to make it a good transition. So, I know that's been a lot. If I can wake some, no, I'm joking. So now, I know that's a lot and it's just kind of an overview. What questions, if any, do you have? IEPs are individual education plans. It's typically for students who might have, or in our special education program. And 504 plans are, it could be, I'll give you an example of like an accommodation. Because I have bad vision, my accommodation is wearing glasses. It could be anything from a student may have a physical condition, so it needs to be allowed to get an elevator key to go from one place to another. It could be something where different colored papers if there's a vision issue. It's usually tied to some sort of physical condition or mental condition that just needs the difference between an accommodation and a modification. An accommodation might be, instead of having to read the questions, I read them to you, because you still have to answer the same ones. A modification would be, I'm going to give you different questions. And so modification is more where you have to be in the special education realm. A 504 is where we'll look at accommodations to present the same content to you differently. What other questions? No, it'll be paper forms handed out. I don't know what color that one is this year. Might be white, and it'll have all the courses. And some of them will be, like English 10 will be X'd out on there, so you'll only have certain options at the. Okay, so the counselors will be preloading the core courses, so the students will be selecting their electives. How about the wellness? Same thing? Okay, and why I asked about the wellness is we have both it'd be introduction to weight training or PE. Students would have the option. The weight training is just that weight training. PE is where it has more like a traditional opportunity units where there's badminton and there's volleyball or there's all of those units. So the students will, the counselors will, you'll get the form and they'll see what the counselors preloaded on those. So you'll see the courses that are preloaded for the students. Sure. For the electives, along those lines, we have, oh gosh, how many different like certificate programs that we go through here. A lot of the electives at the freshman level will be just that. So like if you're interested in the culinary arts, you'll start at food prep. Or if you're interested in potentially going into engineering, you'll start with the introduction to engineering. So a lot of the offerings at the freshman level are pretty obvious that way. So are you looking if like there are... Right.
Our high school graduation requirements are set up to meet four-year college core course entrance requirements. For example, any of our four-year universities in Iowa require 4 years of English for entrance, 3 years of math, 3 years of science, 3 years of social studies, with the exception of world language. World language is not a high school graduation requirement. It is only an elective credit, but typically a four-year university would want at least 2 years of a world language for admission. Each four-year university is very different in their world language requirements. So just rest assured, as far as core courses, if your student takes our standard curriculum and on their course registration sheet, we have a few courses that are not four-year college entrance approved, and those are marked on the sheet. But our general courses meet college entrance. Your students will also receive a link for our course of study guidebook, and within that study, each department has a flow chart of courses that your students can take a look at, read the course descriptions, and those courses will build upon each other. But your four-year colleges, for admission purposes, are really looking at those core courses plus world language that we already require for graduation.
And I think to your point is, I think it would be, what specifically are you looking at? Like, for example, and that would be a conversation with the counselor or something. If you say he really wants to go into engineering beyond school, that would be, okay, we look at the engineering electives. Now, you need to get to here for math, so we have to start here. You need to have these sciences, and so we'd be more specific there. It would kind of depend on the specific vocation that you were considering. I think that was...
To take French would be very helpful.
Right.
But of course, it's a college track. Counts, right? So
yep.
I want to, I guess I want to understand how curriculums,
like packages or whatever. Right.
Right?
Yep.
Just like college, right? Law, engineering, fine arts, so engineering.
All of those, what the overall, the schedule that you'll sign up for is you'll have all of these electives, and it's based on getting a general education start to high school or a basic liberal arts education. If you're specific into knowing, like, he wants to become a physicist, he wants to become this, or he's really interested in these fields, share that with the counselors as you go in to make sure that you're appropriately placed along the progression. Because many professions that you're going into, whether you took AP English or college writing English, you met your four-year requirement, it doesn't. But then there are some fields in, like the STEM, for instance, in which you needed physics and you needed calculus. You have to have both of those courses. So it kind of, if you're into the specificity, if you're getting a real, or if you have a pretty good idea, talk to the counselor to make sure you're starting on the track you want. Otherwise, like that track I showed where it was English 9, modus, all of those, it's going to set you up, give you a good start in just about anything. Does that make sense? That's where you have those individual conversations with the counselors and make sure you're getting to the right places on all of those electives. Definitely. Thank you. Question?
For students coming from outside the district,
yep.
who would we contact for that registration information?
Okay, students coming in from outside of the district, you start with filling out the online registration form. So, and that's, you give the address, and I'm not sure if it's an open enroll situation or if it's just you're in the district and will be enrolling at the high school. You start, and once you're registered, the counselors are broken up by last name. So depending on last name, you'll get assigned to one of the 5 counselors, or in our counseling office, Michelle Kipp will reach out and say, hey, we need to come in and schedule time to get your schedule started. And then once you fill out all that online registration, that's where we can then contact the schools and get transcripts and all of those to start helping with those decisions. Other questions?
I heard that all classes are already being built by the counselor.
Yes.
What if the students want to change instead of
That's, yep, contact the counselor. What they'll typically do is they'll schedule a meeting or a time to talk and just say, here's what we're basing it on. Oh.
They have, for a student who is requesting a change in their course recommendation, the junior high counseling office has a course level change form that must be completed by the student and parent. So they need to, it's at the junior high, yes.
So if you didn't hear, if the courses they recommended for, if you want to move a course up, the junior high will give you a course change request form to fill out, and that'll be the starting point.
So the courses that are loaded in there, those are based on recommendations from their students' body of work. Those recommendations that have been given to the counselors from the teaching faculty. So in the event that you don't agree with or you want to change the level of that course, if there's a form, your child will fill it out, you'll turn it back into the school counseling office, and then that request will be reviewed and you'll be notified if that request was approved or if it was not approved.
And these street bill or these recommendations, we will get those.
It'll be on the forms that they hand out. Your courses will already be selected, which will be Thursday, I believe. Yep. And again, we see this all of the time. If there's not recommended at a level, it's very frustrating. We will get calls. It'll be the 5th or 6th or 7th week of the school year, and it'll be like, "Can we drop this course? We don't have any place to put you. We're in the middle of it." So you can drop that semester, but that grade stands. So I go back to, and I don't want to sound callous or cold or anything when I say, buyer beware. We want to work with you. We want what's best for your students, but make those decisions carefully. Again, we're not just throwing these things arbitrarily. It's based on a lot of years and a lot of experience in seeing it. So there is a subjectivity to it. Did you have a question?
Yes. The filter that she had mentioned, is that on the?
It's on the course of studies. Yep. Course of study guidebook. Yep. And each one, and there'll be like 4 years and the different options and all that.
I would say, yeah, so on the flow charts, there's one for each department area where you can see within each department what the progression of courses would be. If you took this class, then the next one would be this, or if you took this course, the next one, the sequence would be this. There'll be one of those for each department within the course of study book.
Question? Sure. Summer programs for Head Start? No, we don't. No. What else? You got 2 questions. So. No, we don't offer AP Bio in our school. We have honors biology, and then, yep. And so, that's kind of our NGSS. What happens is if you start in honors biology, you need to go to honors chem and to AP physics. So what happens is we'll have students every year who will go honors bio, they'll take honors chem, and then they'll say, oh, AP physics, I'm gonna take physics. You can, but now you have to go back and take earth science to get the 3rd strand of your NGSS. So we've had, even though earth science is a course that most freshmen take, every year we have a handful of seniors that don't want to take AP Bio, or AP Physics, they just take physics, and then they have to take earth science. So, it just happens, yep.
On sample speaking slide, say, they do use one program
Yes, if you're taking the full schedule, the one on the right there, if you want to take 3 electives instead of 2, they need to be 2 music electives. It can't just be 2 academics and a music, or 3 academics. It's if you take choir, band, and engineering or foods or something. So it's 2 musics and 1 academic. That's part of where to. Sorry, 2 musics and a world language. 2 musics and a world language. Sorry about that. Thank you. Question? Yeah. Nothing's filled up. That's the great thing. So whatever electives you put down, electives are also the courses though that get scheduled, because English 9, for example, we're going to have, just use easy math, we're probably going to have 13, 14, 15 sections of it. But in the electives courses, we might have 2 or 3 or 4, and we base that on there's just less flexibility in each one. So that's why it's important to really make sure you talk and think through those electives, because we have much less flexibility in electives than we do in those courses where we have many more sections. And it just comes down to, we might say that we have 25 seats in each class. So if we have 15 sections of it and we only average 24, that's 15 open seats. But if we have 2 sections of it averaging 24, we only have 2 open seats. If that's.
So are they able to select teachers?
No, it's all of that. You select just courses. And then what happens is it's generated. We allocate the sections and the teachers. Each teacher, there are 8 periods in the day, and each teacher only teaches 6 periods. So what we try to do is create a schedule in which as many courses as possible are offered as many periods as possible. But there are always conflicts. It's impossible not to have some conflicts in it. We get it to a pretty good point, but for example, if we have several courses in our building in which there is only 1 section. And so we do our best to spread those out, but we only have 8 periods to work with. So if 2 courses of a single section happen to coincide in the same period, we just can't do that. And also with those, where you can't select a teacher, I go back to like English 9, we're gonna have 13, 14, 15 sections of it. A full-time teacher only teaches 6 courses. So we're gonna have 4 or 5 different teachers of it. So if you have a 2nd hour, you might be with this teacher. If you have a 4th hour, you would be with another one. So you don't select teachers or class periods, and you don't, with the class periods, an elective, I'll just use this year, like welding, is offered 1st and 6th period. So if your child signed up for welding, they will be in welding either 1st or 6th period. You can't select 1st period English if you're in the welding. Does that make sense? So it just goes out randomly. What periods you have and what teachers you have are completely random. We sign up for courses, not teachers.
One other point on that is that we get a lot of questions on with incoming freshmen, is that it is very possible that your 1st semester teacher will not be the same as your 2nd semester teacher, just for a lot of reasons that Mr. Harrison just explained. So if you get halfway through the year and you get your spring semester schedule out and you see a brand new group of teachers, don't be surprised by that. Okay, that's just kind of how that works out with the scheduling.
It's the same class with a different teacher, right? Yep. Other questions? Sure.
Is that the same for all the travel?
Yep. Yep. All right. If you have any other questions, and I'll stay around here for a little bit afterwards. This will also be posted. We'll be having another meeting tomorrow night. Wish you the best of luck as you finish up your 8th grade year. Look forward to